Copy you down, Eagle.
I have a dream.
We shall never surrender.
Tear down this wall.
This is the top defining moments of the decade by History City.
Unlike the previous decade that was marked with innovations and technological advancements such as the airplane and radio, the 1910s would be marked with tragedy and death. Although the decade had some highlights, like the Boy Scouts of America being formed, the birth of Oreos and Hellmann's mayonnaise, this decade would be consumed by war. Many cultural events, like the first appearance of Charlie Chaplin's character, the Tramp, the first Pulitzer Prize awarded in journalism, or the passing of the 19th Amendment, had to be left off this list since the world was literally torn apart this decade. What do you think of our 10? Hello, everybody. I'm Jack Murphy, and I'd like to say that this list is definitely something that seems very relevant to the world we live in today. Do you think history is repeating itself in some of these? Comment down below or hit the subscribe button. We'll be doing one of these for every decade of the 20th century. All right, let's get started.
Number 10.
The Chinese Revolution, 1911. Also known as the Xinhai Revolution, the revolution holds paramount significance in modern Chinese history, as it marked the end of over 2 millennia of imperial rule and led to the establishment of the Republic of China. This pivotal event ignited a fervent desire for change among the populace, causing subsequent movements and revolutions throughout the 20th century that shaped the socio-political landscape of China. In essence, the 1911 revolution served as the cornerstone for the radical transformation and signifying the potency of anti-colonial and anti-imperial sentiments of the 20th century.
Number 9.
The sinking of the Lusitania, 1915. On May 7th, while en route from New York to Liverpool, the British ocean liner was torpedoed by a German U-boat off the southern coast of Ireland, leading to the deaths of 1,198 of the 1,959 passengers and crew aboard. Among the casualties were 128 Americans. This act of aggression intensified anti-German sentiments in the United States and played a pivotal role in shaping public opinion. Though the U.S. would not enter World War I until 2 years later, the Lusitania incident significantly eroded the nation's neutrality stance. Germany had justified the attack by asserting that the Lusitania was carrying munitions for the Allies, though its passenger status made this an unacceptable excuse in the eyes of many. The event underscored the brutal nature of unrestricted submarine warfare and solidified its position as a contentious issue in international relations.
Number 8.
1912 Sinking of the Titanic. Launched by the White Star Line and heralded as the largest and most luxurious ocean liner of its time, yet on her maiden voyage from Southampton to New York in April 1912, she struck an iceberg and met a tragic end in the icy waters of the North Atlantic. Of the 2,224 passengers and crew on board, more than 1,500 perished, making it one of the deadliest commercial peacetime maritime disasters in modern history. The ship's lack of lifeboats, combined with insufficient safety protocols, exacerbated the death toll. The aftermath of the sinking led to significant reforms in maritime safety, including the establishment of the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, SOLAS. Speaking of the lifeboats, it's not that the ship didn't have as many lifeboats as they were supposed to. They had what they were required to. The lifeboats were supposed to be used to ferry passengers from a troubled ship to a safe one. Hopefully, history has taught us not to underestimate nature. And on a personal side note, if Kate Winslet had just scooched up on that door a little bit more, Jack didn't have to die. It was unnecessary.
Hindsight.
Number 7.
Armenian Genocide, 1915. Between 1915 and 1923, the Ottoman Empire, under the rule of the Young Turks, systematically exterminated an estimated 1.5 million ethnic Armenians, alongside the persecution of other Christian minorities, such as Assyrians and Greeks. These atrocities encompassed mass killings, forced marches, starvation, and other forms of brutalities. The government of the Ottoman Empire initiated this campaign under the pretext of relocation, as they accused the Armenians of siding with the Russians during the war. Despite the overwhelming evidence and historical consensus, the Armenian Genocide remains a politically charged topic, with Turkey historically resisting the term genocide to describe the events. The international community, scholars, and many nations have recognized and condemned the Armenian Genocide, emphasizing the importance of remembrance and education to prevent future genocides.
Number 6.
The German Workers' Party is formed, 1919. We may not know them by this name. The German Worker Party was the precursor of the Nationalist Socialist Party, or the Nazis. The party emerged in Munich, Bavaria, and was initially one among many fringe nationalist and Volkish parties that dotted the political landscape of the time. Anton Dexler, a locksmith, was one of its main founders and leaders. In September of the same year, a young Austrian corporal named Adolf Hitler, who at the time was serving as an intelligence agent for the German army, was dispatched to monitor one of the party's meetings. Instead of merely observing, Hitler became actively involved and quickly became one of its primary spokespersons and leaders.
Number 5.
Battle of the Somme, 1916. The battle was one of World War I's most significant and bloodiest battles, fought between the Allies, primarily British and French, and the Germans in northern France. Aiming to break the Western Front's stalemate, the Allies began with a massive week-long artillery bombardment. However, on the battle's first day, the British suffered unprecedented losses, with 57,000 casualties. Throughout the battle, the British introduced tanks for the first time in warfare. Despite immense losses on both sides, the battle resulted in minimal territorial gain, with the Allies advancing only about 6 miles. The battle, ending in November 1916, epitomized the war's high human cost for limited strategic progress.
Number 4.
The Treaty of Versailles. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, ended World War I between Germany and the Allied powers. Key provisions including Germany accepting blame for the war, paying large reparations, losing significant territories to France and the Polish corridor to Poland, facing military restrictions, and giving up its colonies to Allied control. The treaty also established the League of Nations for global peacekeeping. Many historians argue that the treaty's harsh terms sowed the seeds for future conflicts, especially World War II. The economic hardships and national humiliation imposed by the treaty fueled resentment in Germany, facilitating the rise of extremist parties, including the Nazis under Adolf Hitler. The treaty was a seed for future death. We blame Woodrow Wilson.
Well done!
Number 3.
The Russian Revolution, 1917. The 1917 Russian Revolution, comprising of the February and October revolutions, marked Russia's seismic shift from a czarist autocracy to a communist regime. In the February Revolution, food shortages and war fatigue led to widespread protest, resulting in Tsar Nicholas II's abdication and the establishment of a provincial government. However, dissatisfaction grew due to the government's decision to continue in World War I. Capitalizing on this discontent, the Bolshevik Party, led by Vladimir Lenin, overthrew the provisional government in the October Revolution. This paved the way for a civil war, culminating in the establishment of the Soviet Union by 1922. The revolution had profound global implications, spreading communism ideals worldwide.
Number 2.
The Spanish Flu Pandemic 1919. The Spanish flu was a devastating H1N1 influenza pandemic that struck between 1918 and 19. Infecting a third of the global population, it killed approximately 50 million people. Contrary to its name, the virus didn't originate in Spain. The mislabel arose due to Spain's unbiased wartime reporting. The pandemic had 3 waves, with the latter 2 being particularly lethal. World War I's conditions facilitated its spread. Besides its immediate health impact, it profoundly affected global healthcare systems and prompted advancements in epidemiology and public health. Governments, especially those involved in World War I, often censored or downplayed the severity of the pandemic to maintain morale and the war effort. This later caused distrust when the public realized the true scale of the disease. Sound familiar?
Number 1.
Assassination of Franz Ferdinand. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria and his wife were assassinated in Sarajevo by Gavrilo Princip, a Bosnian Serb nationalist from the group the Black Hand. This assassination ignited pre-existing political tensions and alliances, leading directly to World War I. While the murder itself was a localized event, its fallout quickly escalated due to a web of alliances, drawing most of Europe into conflict, which was a powder keg at the time. While tensions and rivalries had been building up in Europe for decades, the assassination provided the immediate spark for World War I. The conflict radically altered the political landscape of Europe, led to significant technological and strategic developments in warfare, and set the stage for even more significant geopolitical changes in the 20th century. When Princip fired that shot, he set off a chain of events that led to Hitler, World War II, the Trinity Test, the Cold War, and the new global world order. We live in the historical shadows of that June day.